everybody. Hello. Dr. Shawne is in the house. Lecture night. Topic tonight is arrogance and fear. And usually when you think arrogance, you think superior, better than, looking down on you, and actually just the opposite is true when you look at the research and look at the psychology of it. Arrogance really is about fear, and that's the topic I'm going to be diving into tonight. I see you guys are showing up, and before I get started, I just wanted to say, how's everybody doing, man? I want to say I'm doing fine, and boy, I'm struggling. Can anybody relate to struggling? This global grief that's going on, the politics, the racial strife, the pandemic. It's heavy duty out there, especially if you're an empath, if you can feel a lot. It's really hard to figure out where do you begin and someone else ends, or where else does someone else end and you begin, and not to take on the responsibility of all that pain and feeling mired in that pain. Is anyone relating to that? That's what I've been dealing with these past few days. And so all I've been focused on, what's the next right step. And today, all I did was the next right step. The next right step right now is having a lecture looking at the exploration of arrogance and fear. I see you guys are showing up. What are you saying? Aw, I've missed you, Rose. Yeah, Sandra, I know, the heaviness, isn't it crazy? Hi, Noreen, I'm so glad you're here. I see you guys. Hi, Elisa from London. Beautiful. Oh, I totally get it, Jeannie. You got it. I have two relatives that were diagnosed with COVID, and rocked my world this weekend. Two more people having it. Hi, Libni from Puerto Rico. Buenas noches. Yep, I see you guys. Yep. Okay, so tonight's topic, we'll officially get going here. Is it 7 o'clock? Oh, it is. Okay. I see you guys. So tonight is about exploring arrogance and fear. Of course, I got to shout out those that support us or sponsor us. And tonight, our sponsor is Gary Stewart of the Family Constellation Facilitation. And he has a new book out, and the book is 99 cents. It's in pre-launch. You can get it on Kindle for 99 cents. And it is called, I'm going to make sure I get this title right, Raising Your Harmonious Child, 21st Century Parenting for a Positive Legacy. And I consider Gary my soul brother. And I'm going to put up the link for the book if that's something you're interested in. It's 99 cents until November 18th in the pre-launch. So if you want to get it, you'll be able to get it. And he really talks about, as a family constellation facilitator, because that's what he is. He teaches these workshops. He's been trained for decades in this kind of work. And it's about stopping and thinking about your impact on the choices that you make during your child's formative years. And in the revelations that he's discovered, that has the pain or the suffering that's been passed on from generation to generation to generation, his genius is, how do you stop those generational patterns? And so if you have any interest in this, I highly recommend you check out Raising Your Harmonious Child. His page is also Positive Life Lessons, and I'll be sure to put up the link for that. And I thought it was so appropriate to have Gary's book tonight sponsor this conversation between fear and arrogance, because many times as parents, many of us never learned what appropriate parenting was, and we just think we're going to wing it. And one of the things I did as a young parent, I'm a grandma now, is because I didn't learn appropriate parenting, and I'm not dissing my parents or whatever, it's just what I learned. And I took, it's called STEP, Systematic Training for Effective Parenting, and I did classes there, and it's actually where I met or hung out with my future husband now, because we're both divorced, taking parenting classes. And it made me fall more deeply in love with my husband, whom I've been married to for 25 years now. And I'm like, well, if a man's going to go to parenting classes, there's something good about this guy. So STEP is another resource to help with those parenting skills. And my husband and I were just watching the news tonight, And there were many doctors on talking about anxiety, pain, mental health that everybody's going through this pandemic, and especially children, especially if your children are having high emotion, which is very common. How do you deal with it? How do you manage it? And I just really recommend Gary's book. Oh, gotcha. I see you, Gary. Perfect. Okay, so tonight is about arrogance. So we think that arrogance is about being better than, being superior to, and that's just not the case. Actually, arrogance is a defense mechanism. Consider that arrogance is a defense mechanism, and a common reason behind arrogance is that we're trying to protect our ego or our self-worth. And we may be behaving arrogantly to hide our insecurity or our inferiority or even a lack of confidence. And I can go arrogant on a dime. I can get hoity-toity, and I could totally relate to this being a defense mechanism, a way to defend or protect myself because I'm feeling frightened. And the fear that drives arrogance is actually the fear of vulnerability. Who would have known? Arrogant people have a hard time admitting to themselves that they're imperfect, and nor do they want others to discover a lot of their imperfections. And many arrogant people don't apologize for their mistakes. I'm not one of those. I'm very good at apologizing. Some of us are. And it's about avoiding embarrassment or humiliation, and it's usually shame-based. And sometimes arrogant people will even avoid situations where they know they can't excel. And they are reluctant to try new things sometimes because they don't know if they can do it well right out of the gate. And arrogance, most of the time, is used to cover the fear that we're not really worthy. And the reason I wanted to talk about this tonight is because some of us go to arrogant. Anybody go to arrogant when you're upset or when you're concerned? And then some of us deal with arrogant people, like, oh, geez, he's so arrogant. And you're just like, oh my gosh, he's so superior. And so the reason I wanted to have this conversation tonight is to give you more compassion of shifting a conversation about arrogance and looking at it as fear. And when you look at it as fear, you have a lot of compassion not only for yourself, but also for others who are behaving arrogantly. Some other tidbits that I discovered along the way. Anxiety and fear are often hidden under a veneer of pride and arrogance. And you can see it in a lot of situations, like when you go on a date with a guy, if you still date, and all he does is talk about himself the whole night. That's about covering up ego or fear. I have a lot of ideas on if someone's getting under your skin and how to approach that in communication. And just so you know, whatever I say, I'll be sure to put in the notes so you can have those tidbits or those highlights that I'm giving you tonight. Also, it's really important to say that a couple of things that I did not share is remind you that we have a couple of things. We have a Daily Joy email. If you're inspired to sign up for that, I'll put the link for that. We have a Joy is a Habit Facebook group. I show up every day just to remind us to find some joy in life, and our Joy is a Habit Facebook group is really starting to rock. Also, if you're a progressive company that actually hires virtual presenters like us to do exquisite trainings on communication, unconscious bias, respect, inclusion, loyalty, equity, and obviously forgiveness in the workplace, please be sure to connect with us because we're happy to share that with you. Okay, so here's someone's getting underneath your skin. Let's first see if you guys are relating to what I'm saying. You can tell I'm a little out of it tonight. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm just like, I'm going with the flow. I'm doing the next right step. What are you guys saying? Let's see if you're relating to what I'm saying. Hi, Deborah. I see ya. Hey, Ruth. Yeah, Kaylee, how is it apologizing and embarrassment? I can't speak for everyone, and I can give you a stereotype or one, for instance, of why someone might be embarrassed to apologize, because they have a hard time accepting that they made a mistake like that. Righteousness gets in the way, and it's really painful for some people to apologize, because that means they are worthless. If they apologize, they're worthless. Have you ever met somebody like that? I know many people like that. I've consulted with people like that. And, you know, Noreen, when you're saying the concept of vulnerability and arrogance really makes sense, it does, doesn't it? And that's what the research is showing. Because I love to look at it from a researcher lens, as a researcher, to see, you know, what does the data really say about this? And as someone who struggled with arrogance my whole life, that's my go-to, I totally get that fear, that risk of vulnerability. It just kerplunks for me. And my throat is even tight talking about it, so I always know I'm on the right track when my throat is tight. And then I still have some of my own work to do around it, if that makes sense. I don't know what your indicators are when you know you have more work to do on a certain topic. Yeah, I'm just seeing what you guys... Yeah, you're so right. Okay, perfect. All right, so I have some ideas or some ways that you can deal with arrogance if you're being arrogant or if someone else is. If you're being arrogant and you start to become aware that you're being, or you might occur as arrogant in that moment, I've done this before. I'll be like telling a story or whatever, or maybe I'm monopolizing the time of a conversation, and I might say, you know what, I'm noticing that I'm going into a habit of superiority, being arrogant. I'm so sorry. I'm paying attention to that. I'm really noticing and raising my awareness around that. Would you forgive me? I'm going to stop talking right now. That's something I've been doing for years. And because I'm always raising my consciousness around it, because the game with arrogance is, and the game with Project Forgive is, how do you make something unconscious conscious, and that journey of making something unconscious conscious, and it takes diligence and practice, and it's a habit. Now, if someone's getting under your skin and arrogance is their thing, you know, what can you say? One thing that you can say that will usually work is if they say something that actually hurts and it's very arrogant, you can literally say, that hurts. That hurts. That will penetrate. That's a great comment to make. I wrote some other ones down too, like for curiosity and exploration. If somebody says something arrogant, you could say something like, well, what has you say that? What has you say that? That's another way to deal with it. Yep, and I'm just looking at the question, Claudia. How do you deal with arrogance in people, possibly those with a personality disorder? You know what? In so many ways, Claudia, you've answered your own question. Because when somebody has some kind of a personality disorder, they have a very difficult time being in a vulnerable, intimate relationship. And accepting that you're not going to get milk at the hardware store from them, that's an analogy I use all the time, will allow you to have some compassion. The trick with that becomes trying to get your needs met from someone who can't meet your needs because of their disorder, right? Let's see. Inferiority, absolutely, Marie, you're spot on when you're saying the underlying aspect of superiority is inferiority. Yeah, because like you're so spot on. You guys are so freaking smart. So the way that I process it, and I am not the queen of everything, this is just how I see it, okay, and how I process it. On a spectrum, you can have tendencies to be arrogant or have a tendency to be a victim. I know it sounds so harsh and I don't mean it to be. Let me explain this and flesh it out a little bit. Arrogant that, of course you can do this. If I'm a doctor, I can do this. I'm a journalist, I can do this. Versus someone who comes from a victimized place of inferiority, that when something goes wrong, you don't even blame the other person, it's all your fault. It's like the blame always lands on you. With a victim, the blame always lands on you. With an arrogant person, the blame always lands on others. So it's a dichotomy. You know, of course we're somewhere in the spectrum, all of us. We're not one or the other. It's a you know, a gray area, and we embrace all pieces of the gray area. And they are the flip sides of the same conversation. And at the same time, as Marie said, inferiority is superiority, and superiority is inferiority. It's the same conversation. I love that you picked up on that. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Yeah, perfect. Okay. What I have a couple more options for you tonight, like what you can say to somebody if something arrogant shows up or they're saying something arrogant. Dependent upon how well you know the person, you can say something like, well, that was very arrogant, and then be quiet. My husband, my clients, we say that to each other. My husband has said it to me, well, that was very arrogant, Shawne. And I'm like, because I trust him and I love him, I'll say, you know what, I'll think about that. You know, you could be right. Because he knows it's something that's important to me to look at about myself. Because arrogance truly is fear, and I want to alleviate fear in my communication with people so I can be the most authentic, real person that I possibly can be without ever pushing people away. And sometimes we push people away, and sometimes unconsciously, right? Because we're protecting ourselves. Here's another way to do that conversation, saying that was very arrogant. Here's another way to do it. If it's someone you don't know really, really well, maybe it's a colleague at work, or you know, somebody you care about, but you've never broached this subject of arrogance, you can say something like, can I have an honest conversation with you? Let's say they say something that's deeply arrogant and it's actually offensive, okay? Because sometimes arrogant comments are very offensive. You know, can I have an honest conversation with you, Mary? And Mary says, sure, what's going on? You know, for someone that doesn't know you, they might be offended by what you just said because it can land very arrogant. And I just wanted to let you know because I know that's not your intention. And a lot of times with an arrogant person, it is not their intention to push people away. It's just not. It's them being in their own stuff, reacting in their own way to their own defensiveness, and feeling frightened in the moment. And when you can be in that place with someone and really be in that compassionate place, it is so powerful because nothing is personal. And it's really not personal. You know how you hear people say, oh, don't take it personally. You know, I've heard that my whole life. And to actually be able to be in that mindset when it's going on and it's so not personal, that is like exquisite. There's no shame. It's very clean. It's very clear where someone ends and you begin and you begin and they end. And I talk about that a lot, mostly because of boundary issues, because a lot of times we become codependent. We take care of everybody, become over-responsible or non-responsible, and not knowing what those boundaries might be. And I thought something else tonight that might be important to show a dichotomy is looking at the distinctions between confidence versus arrogance, okay? Now, on the arrogant side, it's loud and pushy and obnoxious can be. And on the confident side, it can be calm, it can be quiet, it can also be loud and strong and clear. There's clarity to it. There's a kerplunk to it. I love the word kerplunk. The confident side, the arrogant side is insecure. The confident side is deeply secure. On the arrogant side, we need validation. And on the confident side, we acknowledge others' contributions. It doesn't always have to be about us. Now, this can dive into narcissistic tendencies, and I don't say it as a diagnosis because I came from parents that were very narcissistic, and of course, being their child, being raised in their home, I have narcissistic tendencies. That's a conversation for another day. And how can I be more aware about my arrogance, how I'm landing and occurring to people? Am I being as compassionate as possible with still being my true, authentic self? That's really the game. Let's see, you guys are asking questions. Let's see what you're asking. Let me scooch down. There's lots of comments tonight. It's wonderful. I see you guys. Let's see. I'm just looking to see. You know what, Angie, that's a great question. They may say it's not personal, but they really mean it to be. And that to me is not, that's a trust issue. Is that someone you're in relationship with, and I mean this for all of us, that they say what they do what they say, and there's somebody you trust. When my husband says to me that it's not personal, I believe him. Because we're both pretty beautiful at looking at our flaws and looking at crap. We're just really good at it. Now, I have a girlfriend that would say that, and I don't know if I believe her because the trust is not that high, so it's dependent upon how much trust is actually in the relationship. And the more vulnerable, the catch-22 is the more vulnerable you are, the deeper you go, the more authentic you get. Also, the more you open yourself up to being hurt. So there's all these pieces to this when you really do try to, let's see. Oh, you guys, Marvin, you're asking great questions. Marie, putting up boundaries. I've done so many classes on boundaries. And actually, a lot of what I just said to do with arrogance are actually boundary setting. You know, that hurts. You're setting a boundary. That how you just said that hurts. Or commenting right out loud. That was a very arrogant thing to say. And you're actually redistributing the power in the relationship that so you stay on equal grounding with the other person. I love, Marvin, that's a great question about control. Actually, I'm going to add it to my list. I'll make that one of my topics, because how do you deal with controlling people? When you're controlling yourself, giving up control and dealing with others that are controlling, it's a great topic for another day for sure. Let's see what else you guys are saying. Those joining us, our topic tonight is arrogance and fear, and how they just coexist, and they're almost the same thing in some ways when you allow yourself to deeply unpack it and look at it authentically. Yeah, let's see what else you guys are saying. Yeah, you're welcome. Yep, you guys are responding to each other perfect. Beautiful. So that's it. The topic tonight was really about having compassion for our own arrogance, having compassion for those that occur as arrogant. And, you know, anything that I'm sharing, especially when I do these lectures, is not meant to invalidate your feelings whatsoever. Validating feelings are so important. And it can be very painful when someone treats you like they are superior to you. That is just the worst feeling. And dependent upon the person too, you can have that authentic conversation like, wow, you know, it hurts my heart every time you talk like that, because it feels like you're saying you're better than me. Is that what you're trying to convey? Because that's what's happening. And beautiful way to put it, huh? Yeah. Anything else that needs to be said? Perfect. Excellent. Yep, you're right, Marie. I'm with you. All right, so that's lecture for tonight. If inspired, please get Gary's book. The links will be on. I'll put them on as soon as I hang up. 99 cents. I think that's a steal of a deal. And I hope you're hanging in there. I'm hanging in there. I'm just doing the next right step. Whatever is the next right step. That's simply how I'm coping. And a lot of self-care. I hope you're doing lots of self-care. Be very loving with yourself. And you know, one of the biggest things gifts you can give yourself, and I really believe this, especially in that realm of forgiveness, is allowing yourself to grieve. When grief comes up, let the tears fall, let the eyes water up, let that grief come, because it's momentary. It comes and goes like waves, like the ocean. I can feel grief even when I'm talking to you right now. I know so many people are in so much pain. And the next right step is, sometimes in my brain, it's the next right step is to feel the feeling. Feel the feeling. The name of the book, lots of folks are asking, Raising Your Harmonious Child. I'll have the link put up here as soon as I say goodbye. Thank you, Gary Stewart, for sponsoring and being a part of Project Forgive. And thank you all for being here tonight. Next week, topic is dumping over apologizing. Do you know someone that apologizes constantly? Or are you one of those? Or you keep apologizing and the same behaviors keep happening? And you receive apologies, the same behaviors keep happening. So we're going to look at this conversation of deeply over apologizing, and how do you raise your awareness about that so you're not doing that, because that can actually feel like you're a victim when you're constantly apologizing. And women do it more than men. It's just part of our gender makeup. And so we'll talk about that next week, okay? I'll see you through the week in our moments of joy, random moments of joy, to remind you to find some joy in the midst of all this. Big love. I'll see you guys soon.